Shattered Dolls, a senior honor project written by Maya McGowan. Lights Up, images of geisha, China doll, dragon lady, and model minority appear behind each of the girls' faces as they speak. Various slides appear throughout the performance, indicating the pieces and authors performed. For the purpose of this online archive, they will be indicated by the director reading stage directions. Introduction from Songs of the Dragon Flying to Heaven by Young Jean Lee.
Hello. Thank you all for coming here today. Your eyes are not worthy of, my face is not worthy of the strain on your eyes to look at it. My ears are not worth the effort of, my voice is not worthy of the effort of your ears to listen to it. It breaks my heart that it's hard for me to say, I'm sorry.
I don't even know what the Asian people are doing in this show. All I know is that I come up with all this racist shit, and when minorities get mad, I'm like, go to hell, you unfashionably angry minorities. This is my sophisticated critique of racism that you are too stupid to understand. But the truth is, if you're a minority and you do super racist stuff against yourself, then the white people are like, oh, you're a cool minority, and they treat you like one of them.
I want to be white. I want to get really annoyed whenever anyone brings up race. I want to say things like, I don't think of people in terms of race. I find it more interesting to focus on our shared human experience. I want to deny that anything is racist short of slavery and genocide.
I love the white patriarchy with all my heart because I'm ambitious and want power. My whole mentality is identical in structure to that of a racist, sexist, homosexual white male. People think of me as this empowered Asian female, but really, I'm just a fucking white guy.
And some of you may be thinking, oh man, this is a speech about how white people suck. This is so much less complicated and interesting than all the other parts of the show that weren't just about race.
But don't worry, if enough white people hate it, I'll cut it. Hello, and welcome to Shattered Dolls, an examination of authorship and the boundaries of female Asian stereotypes in theatrical literature and film. For the past 6 months, I've been working on this project as a cumulative senior thesis. Initially, I'd explored several different topics, but here are the things that I knew that I wanted. I knew that I wanted my project to be related to theater. I knew I wanted it to be about women. And I knew I wanted to use my project as an opportunity to explore myself and promote social change. So after months of researching, I decided to explore female Asian stereotypes within the theater. It was an opportunity to explore myself as a Korean American actress navigating the industry, and because I knew that I could ask several other Asian American actresses in the department to collaborate with. So let me introduce you to my fellow performers for tonight. Anja Schrag, a freshman BA in Theater Arts, Boggs, a sophomore music theater major, and Erika Harper, a sophomore music theater major. Tonight, we'll be performing pieces for you that both enforce and negate the usage of an Asian stereotype. When you see these pieces, I challenge you to think about their implications and how we as a community can shatter the expectations placed on us through stereotypes. At this time, if you'd please turn off all cell phones and give your attention to us as this lecture demonstration is about to start.
The Geisha.
According to Kelly Foreman in her article titled Bad Girls Confined, Okuni Geisha and the Negotiation of Female Performance Space, geisha are defined as women who study classical Japanese music and dance, perform music and dance for parties in order to pay for their art lessons and elaborate public stage performances, and are officially registered with a central office. However, in Western culture, the term geisha girl has been historically misused. During the Allied occupation of Japan, women known as geisha girls were prostitutes who served American GIs stationed in the country. They would dress up in traditional geisha-looking attire and thus would be difficult to distinguish from the actual hired geisha girls used in court entertainment. Since then, the term geisha girl has become a westernized term to describe all female Japanese prostitutes and workers. Eventually, this would perpetuate the misconception that all geisha are prostitutes, thus creating the stereotype of the sexualized geisha. Let's take a look at some theatrical literature that enforces and negates this stereotype.
The Waiting Room by Lisa Loomer is a dark comedy that explores beauty standards in different cultures. In this scene, we will see Forgiveness, a Chinese woman from the 1700s who is concerned about her bound feet, and Victoria, a 19th century corseted woman who seeks an oophorectomy, discuss the challenges of societal expectations placed on them as women achieve a standard of beauty in order to please their husbands. Often praised as a feminist piece of literature, the New York Times applauds the play for addressing not only the ways in which women have always been victims of their cultural ideals of beauty, but also the inhumanity of the medical establishment and the corruption of the American pharmaceutical industry. However, let's take a look at the opening scene of the play.
Scene from the Waiting Room by Lisa Loomer. Anja as Forgiveness and Megan as Victoria. The waiting room, 3 chairs and a table with magazines.
Pretty. Pretty. Pretty.
Shows Victoria a magazine.
Pretty, huh?
Yes.
She goes back to her book.
Long wait, huh?
He's thorough.
A blood-curdling scream off stage. The women barely react.
Good doctor?
Oh, yes. Ah, Victoria Smoot.
Forgiveness from heaven.
Forgiveness doesn't know what to do with Victoria's extended hand. She gives it a little tap.
How do you do?
She starts to go back to her book.
Oh, fine. A little problem with little toe.
Well, I'm sure the doctor will fix it.
Fell off this morning.
I'm so sorry. And your family, your husband as well?
With other wives this week.
Nice for you. By the way, do you smell something untoward?
My feet.
I beg your pardon?
My feet. Stink bad, huh?
No, not too awfully.
I would wash them, but my husband, he crazy for the smell. Likes to eat watermelon seeds from the toes, almonds, dirt.
Well, I love your shoes.
She starts to go back to her book.
Size 3.
3 inches?
What size your waist?
16. I got my first corset quite young.
How young?
14.
Tops her.
I was-
Shows feet.
I was 5. Corset hurts bad, huh?
Oh no, only when I breathe.
My feet just first couple years.
Really?
One day mother say to me, forgiveness from heaven, today is lucky day by the moon, time to start binding.
Ah,
Then mother takes bandage, place on inside of instep, and carry over small toes to force them in and towards the sole. Then bandage is wrapped around heel nice and forcefully, so heel and toes are drawn together, real close together.
I see. Why?
Make feet pretty for future husband. That night I tried to run away in the forest. My feet were on fire. But mother found me and forced me to walk. She was a good girl when her feet were bound, never cried.
And so your poor feet never grew.
Got smaller. Soon the flesh became putrescent, and little pieces sloughed off from the sole as toes began to putrefy. When I ate salted fish, my feet would swell and pus would drip. Oh, terrible! Mother would remove bindings, lance corns with a needle, and wipe the pus and blood and dead flesh. And every 2 weeks I changed shoes, each pair 1/4 inch smaller.
Victoria starts to gag and gets out her smelling salts.
And after 2 years, my feet were practically dead, so no more pain. Finally, all the bones were broken and 4 toes bent in nice, neat row towards plantar.
Victoria falls back in her chair, faint. Forgiveness concludes triumphantly.
And when I was 9, father betrothed me to my husband.
Well, I love your shoes.
A scream off stage.
And what are you being treated for?
Me? Oh, hysteria.
Hysteria?
It's a disease of the ovaries.
Hurts bad, huh?
No. You see, the ovaries control the personality. I've done some reading on the matter, though my husband says that reading makes me worse, romantic novels especially. My husband is a doctor.
Victoria has a tic. Whenever she says the word husband, her lower arm flings out from the waist as if to swat someone.
Lucky. He has treated you?
Well, he did prescribe the rest cure.
Nice and peaceful?
Oh, very. 6 weeks on one's back in a dimly lit room. No reading, no visitors, no potty.
Worked good?
Well, I came out screaming, actually, but it was hardly my husband's fault. It seems I've had too much education and my uterus has atrophied commensurately.
Glad I never went to school.
Lucky.
When I was a little girl, my husband liked my little feet so much I never left the bedroom.
Well, children need rest.
Men crazy for the golden lotus feel much love and pity for your suffering.
She gets up and demonstrates,
The tiny steps, the whispered walk,
makes a circle.
and bound feet make buttocks larger, more attractive.
Well, I assure you, it's a lot less fuss to wear a bustle.
Bustle, not natural. Also, foot binding makes vagina tighter.
Victoria has another tick. Sex makes her nose twitch.
When I walk, whole lower part of my body is in state of tension, so vagina becomes like little fist.
This is from heaven. You do know erotic tendencies are one of the primary symptoms of ovarian disease.
Erotic tendencies are symptom of disease.
Obviously, you do not keep abreast of modern science.
But what if husband insists on erotic tendencies?
Well, that's not your tendency, dear. That's your duty.
One of the most defining characteristics of Forgiveness is her use of broken English and her bound feet. Although written to be a feminist piece of literature, Forgiveness is described in ways that reflect characteristics surrounding the geisha. This can be problematic as she is the only character tied to race and written to reflect a Western idea of how we view Asian women. This also brings up a good question of whether or not it would be different if any Asian woman were to write about these characters. Under these circumstances, do you believe the character Forgiveness would still be written to portray a stereotype?
In her autobiographical tale, Mineko Iwasaki tells the story of how she became the most successful geisha of her generation. However, you might recognize her name most famously attached to the book Memoirs of a Geisha, written by Arthur Golden. While writing Memoirs of a Geisha, Golden interviewed Iwasaki for background information used in the novel and promised her confidentiality. Yet, upon publication, Golden had given acknowledgement to Iwasaki, causing her to face backlash and even death threats. Following its release, she criticized his work and stated that she felt totally betrayed by him and by the book. As a response, Mineko Iwasaki writes her autobiography and states there is much mystery and misunderstanding about what it means to be a geisha. I hope this story will help explain what it is really like and will also serve as a record of this unique component of Japan's cultural history. Let's take a look at an excerpt from her book.
Monologue from Geisha, A Life by Mineko Iwasaki. Anja as Mineko.
My name is Mineko. I moved into the Iwasaki Geisha house when I was 5 and began my artistic training when I was 6. I adored the dance. It became my passion and object of greatest devotion. I was determined to become the best, and I did. The dance is what kept me going when the other requirements of the profession felt too heavy to bear. Literally. I weigh 90 pounds. A full kimono with hair ornaments can easily weigh 40 pounds. It was a lot to carry. As I matured in the profession, I became increasingly disillusioned with the intransigence of the archaic system and tried to initiate reforms that would increase the educational opportunities, financial independence, and professional rights of the women who worked there. I was so discouraged by my inability to effect change that I finally decided to abdicate my position and retire, which I did at the height of my success when I was 29 years old. I closed down the Iwasaki Geisha house, packed up the priceless kimono, and left Gyonkobo. Now, the kari yukai is changing. It's not clear what lies ahead for Japanese society. I'm afraid that the traditional culture of Gyonkobo and the other kari yukai will cease to exist in the near future. The thought that little will remain of the glorious tradition beyond its external forms fills me with sorrow.
Known as one of the most beloved operas, Madame Butterfly is based on the original short story written by John Luther Long. In this opera, we meet Pinkerton, an American naval lieutenant, and Chocho-san, a Japanese former geisha girl, who is arranged to be married to Pinkerton. In the first act, we are introduced to these characters as they become newlyweds. But as the curtain rises on Act 2, we find out that Pinkerton has left Nagasaki and has been away for 3 years. In this scene, we will see Chocho-san explain to her maid Suzuki her belief that one day Pinkerton will return and they will be reunited. Although she holds this belief, in the end, Chocho-san ends up committing suicide, having learned that the man she loves remarried and was not coming back for her. Let's examine this piece.
Un bel di vendremo from Madama Butterfly by Giacomo Puccini. Maya as Chocho-san sings in Italian, but due to COVID-19, we are unable to provide a clip for this piece at this time.
Filled with devotion and hope, this aria is considered to be one of the most popular pieces in the soprano repertoire. However, many critics argue that we should reconsider how we view this piece and the implications of the opera itself. For instance, in an article written in The Guardian, it poses the questions of how we as a modern audience of the Me Too era experience this musical masterpiece, written by a white European man about the sexual exploitation and death of an Asian woman, and how do we reconcile our enjoyment of this opera while acknowledging that it is an iconic example of Orientalism by a composer who never set foot in Japan? Considering these questions, how would our experience as an audience member change if this piece was written by an Asian playwright? Let's take a look at our last piece of this section. This Is Not a True Story by Preston Choi is a new play that confronts the controversy and impact of Madama Butterfly, Miss Saigon, and Kumiko the Treasure Hunter. Set in a fictional world, Choi explores what it would mean if these characters had agency over their lives and were able to change their endings. This play forces us to question our acceptance of these characters and perhaps makes us think twice about what kind of message we are sending to our Asian American community through continual staging of these shows. Let's take a look at an excerpt from this piece.
Scene from This Is Not a True Story by Preston Choi. Maya as Chocho, Anja as Kim, and Erika as Kumiko/Takako.
I know where I've heard of you before. You're in plays.
What do you mean we're in plays?
Your characters in plays. You're from an opera and you're from a musical.
But
But I'm a terrible singer.
What do you mean characters?
Characters, like from stories, books. You read about them.
Oh, I don't know how to read.
Me neither.
You don't know how to read?
Girls aren't taught how to read where I come from.
The schools were burned to the ground, not that they would have let me go anyway.
No one ever taught you?
We just answered that question rather clearly.
Yeah, it sounds like you're just rubbing it in at this point.
That's why nothing seems strange. You couldn't recognize it.
You're making me feel dumb, and I don't appreciate that.
Sorry, just that's why nothing seems strange to you. You didn't know any better.
Again, it feels like you're talking down to us.
Chocho, remember how I said you sounded European?
Vaguely.
That's because you come from an Italian opera. You're usually played by a European opera singer.
Played by?
Like someone pretends to be you.
You know, I am a 15-year-old Japanese girl, but there have been times I felt like I had the body of a middle-aged Italian woman.
You were made like 100 years ago.
Made? Don't you mean born?
No, you were written.
Excuse me?
And you, Kim, you're from an adaptation of Chocho's story, except they put the story in Vietnam and it's written in English.
I'm sorry, an adaptation?
When they tell a story again, but in a different way.
I'm sorry, I'm still a little hung up on the idea of me being written and not born.
Well, I guess writing a character is a less painful version of birth.
Are you a character too?
Yes and no.
Are we also yeses and nos?
No, sort of. You were written by old European men. I think I'm a hybrid, a fictional and non-fictional person.
Non-fictional?
That means something true, not made up, something real.
Aren't we all made up? We were all made. Everyone was made somehow, therefore we're all made up.
But you're not real.
I feel pretty real.
Yeah.
I think we both live pretty full lives.
Yeah. I've lost my whole family, met my husband one day before marrying him, lost him in the chaos of war, raised my child in the fallout of Vietnam, and then killed myself.
Then how come in all the years you spent surviving with your child, you decided to kill yourself? How could you not think of a different solution?
I didn't have a choice.
But if you really think about it, you did. You didn't have to kill yourself. The only reason you killed yourself is because she killed herself and you're an adaptation of her.
Again, you're hurting my head.
I chose to kill myself. I chose an honorable death like my father.
And you killed yourself because he wrote that you killed yourself. You didn't decide to kill yourself. Your author did.
I believe in Jesus and God, not in authors.
If you were well-written characters, you wouldn't have killed yourself because you had plenty of other options to choose from. Your authors just wanted you to die for the dramatic effect.
I didn't have a choice.
Well, you're not exactly well-written. You're a stereotype.
Stereotype?
A distorted version of the truth. A harmful one.
Harmful? I'm harmful?
Well,
Sorry, could you explain badly written one more time, please?
Okay, Chocho was written a long time ago, like 100 years ago, and she was a character in a famous opera.
I'm famous?
Sort of. People vaguely know who you are. You're like culturally significant. The opera is called Madame Butterfly, so you can be happy to know you're at least the main character of your life story. Kim was written around 15 years ago. They were inspired by the opera Madame Butterfly, so they made the musical Miss Saigon. They've been performing your stories, and I believe that is why everything is repeating.
People keep telling our story.
Which is why we've been doing this over and over.
After having seen both the selection from Madame Butterfly and This Is Not a True Story, do you see any differences in how the character of Cho-Cho-san is portrayed? To me, both of these pieces point to the importance of authorship. Puccini, although having written a beautiful score in Madame Butterfly, writes a stereotypical portrayal of the character of Cho-Cho-san, representing a Western misconception of the East. For instance, she is written to be a geisha, the misconstrued term that all geisha are prostitutes. She is submissive and she is in need of saving by Western forces, a characteristic common of the China doll, a stereotype we will explore in our next section. On the other hand, Choi, an Asian American playwright, comments on the stereotypical and offensive writing of her character and attempts to break the notion that Asian female characters need to follow a stereotype. This is seen as Cho-Cho-san fights for agency over her life and speaks to the hypocrisy of having to dedicate her life towards a man who doesn't love her. Additionally, we see that Choi uses the character of Kumiko/Tekako as a voice to speak on the negative implications of characters that are written as offensive stereotypes. He also uses this piece as a way to challenge us as an audience to question why. Why do we accept the notion that both Cho-Cho and Kim must die at the end of the show, and why does it bring us to our feet in thunderous applause? What kind of message are we sending to Asian women about their role in society in doing this? Now let's take a look at our next stereotype, the China doll.
The China doll.
The Chinese equivalent to geisha is known as the China doll. According to Maythi Rojas in her book titled Women of Color and Feminism, Asian women have been typically portrayed as innocent, docile, and eager to be saved by Western armed forces. Similarly, the usage of the word doll implies features of beauty, smallness, and fragility. This idea of fragility is perpetuated in the usage of the term China doll in association to Asian women. It implies stereotypes of how Asian women should look and act a certain way, implicating them to mere breakable objects. It is this concept of fragility that enforces the idea that the Asian female is in need of saving by Western forces and the white man. Let's take a look at some examples of the China doll. Released in 1960, The World of Susie Wong was a British-American romantic drama film written by John Patrick starring William Holden and Nancy Kwan. The film follows the story of American architect Robert Lomax, who falls in love with a bar girl from Hong Kong, Susie Wong. Initially, this film was praised for its love conquers all theme and for being one of the first films where an Asian female actor was in a leading role on the big screen. However, since its release, it has received major criticism as well. In 2013, the Japanese American Citizens League called out the film for being a part of the persistent strain in our culture that refuses to move beyond the stereotype of Asian women as exotic and subservient. Additionally, other critics have claimed that this film helps set the standard for a whole genre of representation. The duplicitous, hypersexual, yet childlike Asian woman in need of rescue. In other words, the China doll stereotype. Let's view the trailer from this film.
This is it, the brawling Wan Chai district of Hong Kong. Its streets, its bars, its strange places, and stranger moralities. This is the world of Susie Wong, a provocative best-selling novel, and now filmed where the story takes place, a motion picture of international interest. Starring William Holden, who stepped into the incredible life of the Orient and into the world of the bewitching Wan Chai girl, Susie Wong.
You see the girl sitting over there at the bar, the one with the red dress?
Yes, Susie Wong. She my best friend. Most popular girl in bar. She got sex appeal. Okay, I pose for you.
Good. Right over here.
Take clothes off.
No, I've never tried nudes.
Good time to try. You better take shirt off, Susie. Maybe he not like.
He catch you, he beat you.
Poof! He say to me, Susie, I'm crazy mad about you. You do anything you want, for goodness sake. She very pretty girl. She virgin?
Well, if you'll wait a minute, I'll ask.
Never mind. You'll find out.
Susie, what are you doing here?
You told me to wait.
I told you not to wait. Susie's my model, you see.
Does she just wait around until the mood strikes you?
I'll get you pajamas. You want tops or bottoms tonight?
This is the irrepressible Susie Wong, whose world will soon be yours in this exciting motion picture. A world in which she has to fight just to stay alive.
He's the only man in my life I've ever wanted. And if I have to get him the way she did, I'll do it.
Robert, why you not let me be your permanent girlfriend?
Oh, stop it, Susie. We've been all through that. I don't mean to hurt your feelings, but I've had my share of women and all the trouble that goes with it.
That's not good reason, Robert.
All right, then, I can't accept your way of life. I can't have you giving me your love on the days that you're free. Sergeant, let us through. There's not a chance. Who's in charge?
The King and I by Rodgers and Hammerstein II is a musical that premiered in 1951 that is based on Margaret Landon's novel, Anna and the King of Siam. It follows the story of Anna Lenowens, an American governess, who travels to Bangkok to teach English and Western values to the king's wives and children. However, upon arrival, Anna is horrified by some of the king's principles and ends up teaching not only the wives and children, but the king himself how to bring Siam into the modern world. Displaying a conflict between the Eastern and Western cultures, this musical is known as Rodgers and Hammerstein's most complex work. However, critics like Dominic Cavendish from The Telegraph states that The King and I is one of the most problematic musicals of the 20th century American canon. Cavendish believes that in putting its story on stage, it risks being reductive, stereotyping, caricaturing, and compounding at worst the racial aspects of the West colonialist past. Let's examine a character in The King and I that could embody these qualities of the China doll and thus represent a stereotype.
My Lord and Master, from The King and I by Rodgers and Hammerstein II, Maya as Tuptim.
He is pleased with me, my Lord and Master, declares he's pleased with me. What does he mean? What does he know of me? This Lord and Master, when he has looked at me, what has he seen? Something young, soft and slim, painted cheeks, tapering limb, smiling lips, all for him, eyes that shine just for him, so he thinks, just for him. Though the man may be my Lord and Master, though he may study me as hard as he can, this smile beneath my smile he'll never see. He'll never know I love another man. He'll never know I love another man.
The Mikado by Gilbert and Sullivan is one of the most popular and widely performed operas by amateur and professional groups today. It is known for being a lighthearted musical comedy set in the imaginary Japanese town called Titipu, drawing inspiration from the opening of Japan to the West in the mid-1850s. Andrew Crowther, a Gilbert biographer, explains that the Mikado does not portray any of the characters as being racially inferior or indeed fundamentally any different from British people. The point of the opera is to reflect British culture through the lens of an invented other, a fantasy Japan that is only the most superficial resemblance to reality. Considering this idea, let's take a look at a song from this opera.
Three Little Maids from School, from The Mikado by Gilbert and Sullivan. Megan as Yum Yum, Anja as Peep-Bo, and Erika as Pity Sing. Due to COVID-19, we were unable to provide a clip for this piece.
This piece is by far the most critiqued number from the opera within the Asian American community, and with good reason. As you can see through Megan, Anja, and Erika's performances, these characters are meant to represent qualities of the China doll, emphasizing things such as their size, their obedient nature, and their innocence. So, despite Gilbert and Sullivan's intent to create a fictional piece set in Japan that comments on English tropes, the characters are still written as stereotypes, which has unfortunately led to a history in America of practicing yellowface when producing this piece. Blogger and activist Aaron Quill states that the problem is not what Gilbert and Sullivan intended, because they did intend a respectful production. But in America, people have incorporated this terrible kabuki makeup, they've incorporated shuffling and bowing and accents, they've adopted anachronisms, they've adopted racist tropes that they throw in to make themselves feel superior and to be able to get a laugh. In order to combat this, do you believe that as an audience member you would view this piece differently if it was performed by an all-Asian cast or written by an Asian team?
The World of Extreme Happiness by Francis Yachu Kowig is a contemporary play about a young Chinese factory worker who attempts to overcome poverty despite the adversity she faces. The playwright explains that her inspiration for this piece comes from the fact that she is a part of the Chinese diaspora and finds the experience of Chinese migrants, both within their own country and to other parts of the world, endlessly fascinating. In this play, the protagonist, Sunny, is determined to escape her life in rural China and forge a new identity in the city. Her character is ambitious, determined, and optimistic as she believes her new job will financially support her family and provide her with opportunities. But instead, it unfolds a capitalist system that benefits itself by destroying its own people. In an interview with the Goodman Theater, Kowig indicates that there's no Western protagonist that the audience is invited or expected to latch onto, and uses a way to experience the play. Rather, Kowig forces audiences to latch on to an all-Asian cast, as they are our journey of empathy and discovery. Let's take a look at this piece.
A monologue from the World of Extreme Happiness by Francis Yachu Kowig. Erika as Sunny.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed foreigners, press, and business people, good morning. My name is Sunny Lee, and I'm here to tell you how leaving the countryside to work in a city factory gave me the opportunity to transform my life and have some success. Back home, it was my job to grow food. I was a bad farmer, my plants got sick. My neighbor, she told me to stop being an idiot and taught me how to feed vegetables. I became a good farmer, but I knew if I didn't leave, I'd marry a farmer and spend my life trying to make boy babies. So I went to Shenzhen, to the factory. I didn't know it wouldn't matter how much I looked like a city person or how many people I tricked, because my ID card said peasant. City people, they think they can burn through peasants like a natural resource. To them, we're coal. We don't have the same rights, but we're supposed to make them rich. I want to say to all my fellow migrant workers who are watching me right now that I protest, and I ask that you protest with me. If they say no, go on strike. Stop working. Let city people try to live for a single day without us. Stop selling them food and digging out coal. Stop building their houses and sewing their clothes. Chop off my arm and I can still strike. Hack off my legs and I can still walk. Rip out my heart, I will mysteriously recover. I can bathe in boiling oil and come out cleaner than I went in.
Allegiance by Jay Kuo is known as the first Broadway musical created and directed by Asian Americans and has a predominantly Asian American cast. It's set in a time of the Japanese-American internment of World War II and was even inspired by personal experiences from George Takei, who stars as one of the leads. Confronting topics like immigration, xenophobia, and wartime paranoia, writer Jay Kuo explains that the story of Allegiance is told from the Japanese-American perspective, and that several cast members were either interned themselves or had family who were. He goes on to state that this story comes with a sense of ownership of the material, because he wrote from the inside out and not the outside in. To Asian American actors like Lea Salonga, another star from the show, this piece is monumentous. She declares that this is the one show that does have an Asian perspective behind it, besides the Asian actors on stage. I don't think it's something that Broadway has seen before, but it's certainly something that Broadway actually needs. Let's take a look at a number from this musical.
Higher from Allegiance by J. Quo. Megan as Kay.
There once was a little girl playing on a swing set. When her grandpa built by the sycamore tree near the rusty farmyard gate, while her mom would pin the laundry, the little girl would cry out loud, "Push me higher, push me higher, push me, I can't wait." Her mama would push a couple times, but there was laundry still to do. So she learned to use her own strength, pull her own weight, push on through, to swing higher, higher than before, higher, but scared to reach for something more, higher, higher toward the sky, until the day she'd been to kiss her mama a last goodbye. There once was a little boy who loved that swing set. He had a licorice twist from the store in town and two knobby skinned up knees. While his sister pinned the laundry, the little boy would cry out loud, "Push me higher, push me higher, push me pretty please." The girl would push a couple times, but there was laundry still to do. So she watched amazed as suddenly he pulled his own way through, to swing higher, higher than she dared, higher. He flew so high but wasn't scared, higher. He could touch the sky. Right then she knew that he would also one day tell her goodbye. That little boy, he seemed so sure. Was it something never taught to her? How the years pass quickly by. That girl's a woman still afraid to try. Is it too late to start again? Get back that feeling I had then. But now my life is upside down. There's no more farm, there's no more town, and no use asking why. But I won't let it pass me by. Life won't pass me by. I'll fly. Get back on that swing. Higher, soaring higher up than anything. Higher, I want something more. I dreamed I'd reach for greater things. My eyes upon those golden rings. I'll take what chance the future brings. And
To me, the importance of authorship is evident as both Kay from Allegiance and Sunny from the World of Extreme Happiness are characters that defy Asian stereotypes. Both women are driven, hardworking, and human. They have desires, dreams, and faults like all of us, and are not written as stock or two-dimensional characters that lack unique traits and features. This humanistic quality is crucial as it allows us as audience members to connect and empathize with these women as we follow their stories. So now that we've seen some pieces that utilize and refute the China doll stereotype, let's take a look at our next example, the Dragon Lady.
The Dragon Lady.
The idea of the Dragon Lady is that Asian women who fall under this stereotype are considered to be strong, mysterious, deceitful, powerful, seductive, manipulative, and more. According to Sheridan Prasso in her book titled The Asian Mystique, China's Empress Dowager Cixi is the reason we think Dragon Lady in association with Asian women who yield power. However, it is clear through her story that what brought upon this image was yet another misconception of the East, similar to the geisha and China doll. So how did this happen? In 1898, the Empress Dowager went after a group of political reformers, including a man named Kang Yue, who started a Reformation movement through the 100 Days Reform. This reform included radical ideas like changing the government to a constitutional monarchy and practicing capitalism. Because the Empress Dowager was an opponent of this reform, Kang began to make false accusations against her in hopes of starting a revolution. Some of these statements include calling her an evil hag and a depraved palace concubine. Eventually, the Times of London would get a hold of these accusations and print articles describing her as deceitful and ruthless, thus creating the Dragon Lady stereotype. Since then, this term has been associated with many characters in Hollywood films, including American actress Anna May Wong. Because her characters had similar qualities associated with the Empress, this paved a path that influenced the types of roles for Asian Americans and set a precedent for future casting decisions. Eventually, this would lead to Wong's departure from Hollywood, as she would spend her lifetime promoting herself to be seen beyond the limitations of this stereotype. Let's take a look at one of the earliest examples of Anna May Wong featured as the Dragon Lady in The Thief of Baghdad.
Due to technical difficulties at this time, our clip for The Thief of Baghdad from 1924 is unavailable.
Flower Drum, sung by Rodgers and Hammerstein II, premiered on Broadway in 1958. This musical was considered to be a breakthrough for its time, and it was one of the first Broadway musicals written to feature an all-Asian cast. It ran for 600 performances and then disappeared from Broadway, regarded as quaint, patronizing, old-fashioned, and inauthentic, as it was a show created by non-Asians about Asian Americans. It wasn't until Asian American playwright David Henry Hwang was given special permission to rewrite the book for a revival of the musical in 2002. Then it gained more attention. In his introduction, Hwang writes, "I began work on the musical with the intention of creating a more authentic flower drum song, and was convinced of the need to create characters who burst from the page or stage with the richness, complexity, and contradictions of real people." So let's take a look at a number from the original musical that showcases qualities of a stereotype in which Hwang would later need to develop in order to create a more complex and dynamic character through his book.
I Enjoy Being a Girl from Flower Drum Song by Rodgers and Hammerstein II. Anja as Linda Lowe.
I'm a girl, and by me that's only great. I am proud that my silhouette is curvy, that I walk with a sweet and girlish gait, with my hips kinda swivelly and swervy. I adore being dressed in something frilly. When a fella comes to meet me at my place, off I go with my Joe or John or Billy, like a filly who is ready for the race. When I have a brand new hairdo with my eyelashes all in curl, I float as the clouds on air do. I enjoy being a girl. When men say I'm cute and funny, and my teeth aren't teeth but pearl, I just laugh it up like honey. I enjoy being a girl. I flip when a fellow sends me flowers. I drool over dresses made of lace. I talk on the telephone for hours with a pound and a half of cream upon my face. I'm strictly a female, and my future I hope will be in the home of a brave and free male who enjoy being a guy, having a girl like me.
As we can see, Linda Lowe possesses similar qualities to the Dragon Lady. She is seductive and alluring. She seeks approval from American men, and in return is rewarded with power and wealth. Although a non-conventional example of the Dragon Lady, it is clear that her tactics and objectives are written in comparison to the stereotype. Now, having seen an example from the original score, what do you think David Henry Hwang could have done to create a more authentic book that showcased the humanity of these Asian American characters like Linda?
In order to combat the negative implications of stereotyping, some Asian American playwrights use reappropriation as a way to reclaim words, images, and ideas that were originally created out of prejudice and bigotry. According to Grammarist.com, to reappropriate has two meanings. First, it means to appropriate again, as with funds that are taken from one purpose and set apart for a different one. Second, it means to appropriate something pejorative and make it positive. Although sometimes controversial, it is a tactic used to point out the hypocrisy and harmful intent of these words, images, ideas, etc., in hopes of changing its semantics. In The China Crisis by Kip Arante Chang, one of his characters, the Dragon Lady, is written with the intent of reappropriating the images and words associated with this stereotype. So let's take a look at a monologue by her character to see an example of this.
Monologue from The China Crisis by Kip Arante Chang. Erika as Dragon Lady.
I Dragon Lady. I cook long time. I cook Hunan egg rolls for Golden Chopstick Restaurant. That's all. Low fat. I meet him only once, maybe twice. He sample Hunan egg rolls and say best he ever have. He asked me go work at El Loco Pagoda Restaurant. Bring secret recipe to his restaurant. I say no, but he pushed me, but I no tell. No price, we're selling secret from many generations from China. There are things you not know about Chinese people. There are things about Chinese people you'll never understand.
She transforms into a beautiful woman.
There are things about us that you will never be able to get a handle on. You can only wonder and hope that maybe one day you will get a little closer to what it really means to be Chinese. The Golden Chopstick Restaurant is filled with the unexpected. Like all Chinese restaurants, our restaurant is a place filled with mysteries. I'm not just here to fry egg rolls. I have a brain too. If I have to fry one more Hunan egg roll, I'll just scream.
Tea by Valina Hasu Houston is a new play that follows the lives of 5 Japanese war brides post-World War II. The play begins with a middle-aged Japanese woman, Himiko, who commits suicide. Shortly after her gun goes off, we see the remaining characters of the play during a gathering for tea while Himiko, now dead, observes from the side. They discuss the struggles of dealing with discrimination, alienation, and cultural adaptation as they navigate their new lives in Kansas. However, to me, this play is really about friendship, hope, and reconciliation as the women find counsel in each other. It's a play about the Asian American experience from a first-hand account as Houston's work reflects personal experiences growing up as a Japanese American in Kansas. The women in this play are strong, outspoken, honest, and vulnerable as they recount their experiences. In other words, these women are well-developed characters that defy stereotypes. Let's take a look at a scene between them.
Scene from Tea by Valina Hasu Houston. Megan as Toriko, Anja as Atsuko, Erika as Setsuko, and Maya as Himiko.
The only time we have taken tea together is whenever something bad happened to a Japanese war bride. We have the best tea and realize how little we understand about each other's choices, in husbands, in raising our children, and whether or not we choose to embrace America. Americans don't want us. Japanese Americans too busy feeling bad themselves. We can't go back to Japan. That's why I say family is the most important thing. What makes us the most happiest? Our children. Our children.
Can you believe it? My mom won't let me go out for cheerleading. She says it's too sexual. Don't do skiing. Japanese don't ski. Don't do motorcycle. Don't do skydive. She even thinks life insurance guarantees you don't die. When I was born, she bought me a $100,000 policy.
My mother worries about life, not death. Did you eat your raw egg and fermented soybeans today? Did you have a bowel movement? Mom's so funny. We were separated in a store and over the intercom I heard, Japanese mother lost in dry goods. Will her daughter please claim her?
My mother doesn't worry about anything except my dad. When she starts licking the bottom of his shoes and gets that look in her eye, I can say, Mom, hi, I'm gonna join the Marines, become a lesbian, screw the football team. She'd just say, okay, Linda, that's good. Have to fix dinner for sugar pie now.
Man, the only thing that really bugs me after all these years is having to take my shoes off in the house.
I thought I was gonna die when my date picked me up from the homecoming dance. While he waited for me, my mother put shower caps over his shoes.
Mieko, what about your mother? She came to our house wearing that blonde wig. She slurped her tea and crocheted those green and purple poodle toilet paper covers. Ugh.
You guys don't know anything about what life really is. Don't ask me about my mother, because then you're asking me about myself, and I don't know who the hell I am. I was born in a storm, and it's never stopped raining. My only blessing is Mieko, my half-Japanese girl. I love her so much, but she was born in my storm too. So it was a Saturday in May. Mieko wants to make me worry, so she hitchhikes. She's gone 3 days. The last time I saw Mieko was in the dusk. She looks so Japanese, her shoulders curving like gentle hills. Perfect kimono shoulders, her grandmother would say. Mieko came home today. Someone made her dirty, stabbed her in the chest many times, and then raped her as she died. Left a broom inside my little girl's body. Her brassiere was shredded by the knife. There's no one for me. There never was. Billy? Is that you? Before it's too late, tell me the truth. You loved me, didn't you? Once there was nobody like me. I see you there waiting in the mist, your strong arms ready to hold me for one last dance. But I'm going another way. Like bamboo, I sway back and forth in the wind, bending but never breaking. Never again. I have a long walk ahead of me. All ties are unbound as completely as if they never existed.
If you are a fan of Quentin Tarantino, then you are familiar with some of his most popular works, including Pulp Fiction, Inglourious Basterds, Django Unchained, and the Kill Bill series. Although Kill Bill might be known as most famously for its leading actor Uma Thurman, it also features an Asian American actress, Lucy Liu, who plays the leader of a Japanese crime syndicate. In this clip, we will see Liu's character, Oren Ishii, speaking with the other members of the organization. As you watch, notice the differences between Anna May Wong's Dragon Lady versus this more contemporary version.
Kill Bill, 2003.
皆さん、田中の親分は胸に一物終わりのご様子。ぜひ本音をお聞かせいただきましょう。
今日ここで起きしまって間違いなことだよ。石井の姉さん。わかんだろうよ。あんたのことだよ。愛の子がチャイニーズの愛の子アメリカ人に依頼してしまったってことだよ。
私の真剣な気持ちをご理解いただく。ここから英語で話します。As your leader, I encourage you from time to time, and always in a respectful manner, to question my logic. If you're unconvinced a particular plan of action I've decided is the wisest, tell me so. But allow me to convince you, and I promise you right here and now, no subject will ever be taboo. Except, of course, the subject that was just under discussion. The price you pay for bringing up either my Chinese or American heritage as a negative is, I collect your fucking head. Just like this fucker here. Now, if any of you sons of bitches got anything else to say, now's the fucking time! I didn't think so.
One of the most interesting things about this stereotype is its evolution throughout the years. Initially, the Dragon Lady represented a mysterious, manipulative, seductive, but similar to the China doll, submissive woman who usually served a male figure. But since the creation of martial arts films, the image of the Dragon Lady has changed. Now she is more aggressive, dangerous, and even ruthless at times, killing all those who challenge or defy her. Along with this comes the expectation that in order to get cast in a leading role, Asian women must learn martial arts. Lucy Liu is a prime example of an actor who has mainly played characters that follow a more contemporary version of the Dragon Lady in films like Charlie's Angels and The Man with the Iron Fists. In an interview with ABC News, Chinese-American actress Anne Hu explains, I usually get an audition for a supporting role, sidekick, or best friend. And unless I know Kung Fu, or some kind of knife fighting or sword fighting, or something of that stereotypical nature, it would be hard for me to be seen as having a leading role. Who recognizes that because of this image change, the opportunities for female Asian American actors has become more limited in an already restrictive industry. It is important to recognize this as an audience and to consider the implications on a group of people that have historically been marginalized even to this day. It is because of many Western misconceptions of the East that we have created and enforced these stereotypes through the media and through art. However, there are also stereotypes that the Asian and Asian American communities have produced as well. This brings us to our last examples, the model minority and the tiger mom.
The tiger mom and model minority.
According to Harvard Law School's journal Asian Americans in the Law, the model minority usually refers to a minority group perceived as particularly successful and is often applied to Asian Americans who, as a group, are often praised for apparent success across academic, economic, and cultural domains. This term seems to have been coined during the civil rights movement in a 1966 New York Times article titled Success Story Japanese American Style, where sociologist William Peterson uses this phrase to describe how, despite marginalization, Asian Americans have achieved high success in the United States. Once published, journalism companies around the nation started to distribute similar articles sensationalizing Asian American kids as geniuses and whiz kids. Let's first look at a few examples from pieces that showcase the model minority stereotype, starting with the musical comedy drama TV show Glee. Written by Ryan Murphy, Brad Falchuk, and Ian Brennan, Glee follows the lives of a group of ambitious misfits trying to escape the harsh realities of high school by joining a Glee club. Two of these students are written to be Asian characters, Tina Cohen Chang and Mike Chang. In this clip, we will see Mike and Tina discuss expectations associated with the model minority in an episode titled Asian F.
Glee from 2009.
Ready for song practice? Your audition is tomorrow.
I'm not auditioning.
What are you talking about? We've been practicing your singing every day. This is your chance to break out and show everybody that you're more than just a fleet-footed dance ninja. Griff is perfect for you. He sings, he dances, he dies. It's the second male lead, Mike.
I'm overwhelmed and losing focus. Football, glee club, booty camps, we're ready for sectionals. Get an A-, Tina.
You got an Asian F?
My dad is all over me.
You shouldn't have to hide your dreams. Just be honest with him.
Oh, like how you were so honest about pretending to stutter all that time?
Point taken.
Known for hits such as the I Love You song and Magic Foot, the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee by William Finn is a beloved show, often produced in many amateur and professional theaters. It centers around a fictional spelling bee, in which a group of 6 kids compete in hopes of being declared the spelling champion. As each kid approaches the microphone, they start to reveal personal stories related to their home life and identity. One kid, Marcy Park, is stated to be an overachieving Asian American. In her character description, she is stated as the poster child for the overachieving Asian because she can speak 6 languages, is a member of All-American Hockey, a championship rugby player, plays Chopin and Mozart on multiple instruments, sleeps only 3 hours a night, hides in the bathroom cabinet, and is tired of always winning. In other words, she represents the ideal modern minority. Let's take a look at a number from the show that features Marcy.
I speak 6 languages. From the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee by William Finn. Erika as Marcy.
I speak 6 languages. Every language easy as the recipe for making Jell-O. I speak 6 languages, and I can say hello in at least 7 more. To excel in athletics is not difficult if one has the temperament. Apparently, I have the temperament. Yes, I score some goals. So unfazed am I as my life unscrolls. Unamazed am I don't like to brag. And I won't 'cause I don't have to. But I speak 6 languages. All-American in hockey. And anything I do without getting sore. I speak 6 languages, and I like the theme from Rocky, though I play Mozart more. I achieve my goal. Someone faced in mine as my life unscrolls. Unamazed am I, winning is a job, and I get no real enjoyment, but je peux parler 6 mots. Jaga idioma simple, jero oyo no recipe no yasashi desu. Jaga varushetsu otsukim, funny that shalom. I speak 6 languages. I am
of always being the best and the brightest at every mass. 6 lousy languages, and for my height I'm the lightest of the girls in my class. I know 6 languages. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Another common stereotype of the Asian American woman stems from the tiger mom. Although first mentioned in the 19th century, this term was made popular by Amy Chua in her book titled Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother. In this book, Chua discusses her methods related to Chinese parenting. Chua states that by raising her children in the Chinese way and supporting punishingly hard work, it yields excellence. To her, this creates a beneficial environment for her children to grow up in and leads to success. Let's take a look at an excerpt from her book that describes her methods.
Monologue from Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother by Amy Chua. Megan as Amy.
A lot of people wonder how Chinese parents raise such stereotypically successful kids. Well, here are some things my daughters were never allowed to do. Have a play date, be in a school play, complain about not being in a school play, watch TV or play computer games, get any grade less than an A, not be the #1 student in every subject except gym and drama, and play any instrument other than the piano or violin. I'm using the term Chinese mother loosely. I know some mothers of Chinese heritage who are not Chinese mothers. Despite our squeamishness about cultural stereotypes, there are tons of studies out there showing marked differences between Chinese and Westerners when it comes to parenting. In one study of 50 Western American mothers and 48 Chinese immigrant mothers, almost 70% of the Western mothers said that stressing academic success is not good for children. By contrast, roughly 0% of the Chinese mothers felt the same way. The Chinese mother believes that 1, schoolwork always comes first. 2, your children must be 2 years ahead of their classmates in math. 3, you must never compliment your children in public. 4, the only activities your children should be permitted to do are those in which they can eventually win a medal. And 5, that medal must be gold.
Battle Hymn of the Tiger Mother is an interesting piece because it is one of the few pieces we've seen today that is created and perpetuated by the Asian and Asian American community. And in terms of the relationship to the model minority, it appears that this idea of the tiger mom is meant to encourage and even enforce kids to comply with this stereotype. However, the biggest differences between these two stereotypes and the previous ones mentioned is the idea of authorship. Although stereotypes in general can set unrealistic expectations about a particular group of people, the core of the problem stems from whether or not the stereotype is created as a form of oppression or as a characteristic created by a group of people about that group of people. Let's take a look at another example from an Asian American perspective in The Joy Luck Club.
The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan is a famous book about the lives of 4 Asian women who fled China in the 1940s and their 4 Americanized daughters. The novel focuses on one of the daughters, Jun Woo, who after her mother's death takes her place in a social group called the Joy Luck Club. It was adapted into a film in 1993 and features famous actors like Sai Chin, Q Chin, Lisa Liu, and France Nguyen. In a review for the New York Times, critic Janet Maslin states that the movie is both sweeping and intimate, a lovely evocation of changing cultures and enduring family ties. Now let's take a look at a flashback from this movie with Anja as June and Maya as her mother. In this scene, we will see June discuss the challenges of growing up in a household with a tiger mom who has placed expectations on her to succeed in every aspect of her life. Let's take a look.
Scene from The Joy Luck Club from the screenplay by Amy Tan. Anja as June and Maya as Suyeon.
I see you didn't touch your crab.
Like I said at dinner, not hungry. What, you're mad at Waverly?
How could I be mad at someone with all that style? It's just a shame I wasn't born that way.
So it's me you're mad at?
No, I'm just sorry you got stuck with such a loser, but I've always been so disappointing.
What do you mean disappointing? Piano?
Everything. My grades, my job, not getting married, everything you expected of me.
I do not expect anything. Never expect. Only hope. Only hoping best for you. It's not wrong to hope.
No? Well, it hurts. Because every time you hoped for something I couldn't deliver, it hurt. It hurt me, Mommy. And no matter what you hope for, I'll never be more than what I am. And you never see that, what I really am.
She stops washing dishes, dries her hands, takes necklace off, and puts it in June's hand.
You, since your baby time, I wear this next to my heart. Now you wear next to yours. It will help you know I see you. I see you That bad crab, only you tried to take it. Everybody else want best quality. We're thinking different. Waverly took best quality crab, you took worst. Because you have best quality heart.
Puts necklace around June.
You have style no one can teach. Must be born this way. I see you. This scene is one of the most heartfelt moments of the movie, where you see June and her mother develop an understanding from one another. June, having felt the pressure to conform to the model minority, expresses her frustrations and feelings of unworthiness because of the expectations placed on her. Her mother, on the other hand, realizes her tiger mom parenting style has put pressure on her daughter and empathizes with her, explaining that she loves her and has always been proud of her, stating, "I see you." It is this complexity of both of these characters and their relationships that indicates they were written to break free from the limitations placed on them by stereotypes and are well-developed three-dimensional characters that are alive, ever-changing, and human. The kind of characters we hope to see on the stage and on the screen.
Conclusion.
Asian American playwright David Henry Hwang states, at its core, a stereotype is bad writing, a one or two-dimensional cutout devoid of humanity and therefore prone to demonization. Whether one's characters are cooks, laundrymen, computer scientists, or gangsters, if they are all well written, they will exude humanity, which is ultimately the most effective weapon against stereotypes and the most visceral measure of authenticity. It is of my opinion that one of the best ways to combat this type of writing is through consideration of authorship. Through my research, I found that of the literature I read for and about female Asian Americans, those that were written from a non-Asian perspective tended to follow a stereotype, whether that be the geisha, the China doll, the dragon lady, the model minority, or even the tiger mom. However, most of the literature I read that was written from an Asian perspective opposed stereotypes or found ways to reclaim them. Instead, the author's focus was on the character's story and what made them human rather than what made them Asian. In response to the opening of the musical Allegiance, Steve Tran, editor for the American Theater Journal, proclaims, "What's important now is that there's also new work that more authentically represents the Asian and Asian American experience created by Asian American teams. Quo and Allegiance are a dramatic and long overdue step in that direction." I think it's important to state that we have taken tremendous strides towards representation in the theater. And in highlighting and producing works written from an Asian or Asian American perspective, we showcase a more representative and personal story that is authentic and honest. This is how we promote diversity in industries often plagued in prejudice and racism, through producing, sharing, and writing works created from a more personal experience through authorship. And as a Korean American actor about to enter this industry, these are the works that I want to share with you in hopes that it will inspire you to consider what authorship means to you. So now let us, 4 Asian American actors, tell you what authorship means to us.
Images of geisha, China doll, dragon lady, and model minority fade behind each of the girls' faces as they speak verbatim monologues created by the company.
My perspective, or like just even like my mom, like she moved to America like wanting to like fulfill this American dream. She left everything behind in Japan, and like obviously that's an important story, no matter like if some white person took that story and decided to turn it into a musical, it just wouldn't be the same, because like I don't know, I think it's important to like, no matter how many stories like Miss Saigon that you share, it would be different because it's actually coming from the actual perspective, and there's something different and vulnerable and emotional and actually true about it. And because like anyone can like fix the bad things and try to make them better, so it's more appealing. Like our story should be told from like the plain truth. Yeah.
I just think that, just in general, I think there's a stigma on Asians in society, and I think that art should reflect a reality. And I think that with the current state of art right now, it's not reflecting reality. It's not making anybody question their current beliefs, and it's allowing people to continue to believe in harmful and hurtful stereotypes against just a lot of races. And so I think giving a voice and people finding their voices to speak on behalf of like their own experiences as an Asian person gives that reality back to the art form, you know, and not somebody else's version of that reality, but that it is their own reality, that I think is so important going forward. We need to get rid of those old notions and outdated notions and understand that like a group of people they're not meant to be like stereotyped. They're not meant to be tokenized, you know?
I think it's important that people are telling their own story, because you can't really speak for anyone else. Like, I think even it's tough for like I don't know, for it to be like the inverse, like for an Asian writer to write about like a white or like a black family or character. Like it's not quite the same perspective. So I think I would like, yeah, I think I think it would be good because it's just I think if it's your story and it's your experiences, you're gonna get it more correct than other people will. Theater like is becoming more diverse or like should be like that we should consider everyone who wants to be involved and who's creating in it instead of kind of focusing on older things or only like a few people. I think just like expanding your horizons, I guess.
I think authorship is important to me because it's so important for someone to tell their own experiences, to tell their own stories because it is what they lived in. It's what they've experienced throughout their life, and you can't speak for someone else and say that they've experienced this because everyone's story is their own. So even if I wasn't looking at Asian literature specifically, if I was looking at, female literature just itself, the type of experiences that a female experiences versus a male or a non-binary individual are very different, and it'd be a different story if it came from someone else who didn't live through those experiences. I think there's a sense of accuracy and accountability if it's written from someone's own experiences.
Lights fade to black, into performance.